This way. Hello and welcome to another video from oorail. In this video, we're going to give you guys some quick tips for using the CMX track cleaning car. The CMX track cleaning car is a HO scale kind of American brass product. It's quite popular. I know a lot of the major YouTube channel guys have it, especially the ones with a larger layout. And so this is very really handy. It's very heavy, but I actually have to use two class 20s from Bachmann to pull this. It's got KD couplers and so on. I actually have a more detailed video on it, which I'll put in a link above. But basically, this thing is the ultimate track cleaning kind of apparatus. So if you're getting tired of using the trusty old Pico track rubber, this thing will save you a lot of time. Now, if you've got a small layout like a 6-foot by 4-foot loop and you got two tracks, don't waste your money. Buy some more trains. Just use the track rubber. It'll take you like 5 minutes to run around the track. However, if you've got a much bigger layout, like maybe 10 or 15 feet, more complicated track work, point work, so on, and then one of these is definitely worth investing in. But today's video, I wanted to give you guys some money-saving tips, as well as some tips from us using the track cleaning car. Now, we've had this for several years, so we have some experience with it, and we use it quite regularly. So the first thing I wanted to look at was the consumables, because that's really where you're going to spend your money. You've got the track cleaning pad, and you also have the fluid that goes into it. So we use two types of fluid. You've got a Goo-Gone, which is an American sort of chewing gum removal product, which is hence the name why it's called Goo-Gone. Basically, if you got some kind of sticky mess on your carpet, this is the sort of thing that you would use. It does evaporate, and I believe it is flammable, and I wouldn't go drinking it or anything, but as it is toxic. But this is dirt cheap. Right over here in the States, I got this bottle here for $1 out of the Dollar Tree. So some of the pound shops over here carry it. You can get it in reasonably sized bottles, a little bit bigger than this, for a couple of dollars. I think that's what's available in the UK. So if you don't have a friend in America who can ship this to you, and you're not over here on holidays or something, you can order it off Amazon. Now, there's a couple of different versions of this. You want the standard kind of yellow colored one. I do believe they have like some orange and an industrial product. You don't really want to use those. You just want to use the standard Goo-Gone. The other thing that we use at oorail is this 91% isopropyl alcohol. It's standard first aid antiseptic. I get this at Sam's Club. It comes in two large 32 ounce or 1 quart or 946 milliliter bottles for a couple of dollars. So I usually stock up on that when I go to Sam's Club, and I can get a year's supply by just buying like 2 or 3 bottles of it. Now the other thing is the CMX track cleaning pads. Now these come on a little roll. I think it's about 70 or 80 centimeters you get, and which I think is about just under 2 foot. And it's not actually cheap. It's runs I think in the UK about 6 or 7 pounds, and it's about the same price here in the States. So one of the things that I looked at was, this is probably one of the pricier things. So I was trying to figure out if there was an alternative. So a few years ago, I went down to a fabric store, because this is just basically fabric, right? Feels like it might be felt or velvet or something. So I went down to the fabric store, and I showed it to the lady that worked there, and I asked her if she knew what this type of material was. And she told me that it was upholstery fabric. And so she pointed me in the direction of the upholstery fabric section, and I went around and basically started looking around to see what I could find. And one of the things I was looking for is this particular product, while it's kind of ribbed, so it might actually work okay in terms of pulling stuff off the track. The actual type of fabric it is, which is feels like it's almost like velvet, it gets wet really easily, and then it stays wet, and it's once it's wet, it really doesn't do much for cleaning the track. So after a long while, I came across this fabric at the fabric store, And basically you can get this on Amazon in the UK as well. I'll put a link to it in the store. But basically this has got like a chevron pattern on it, and the way it's woven, the upholstery fabric basically, it's a little bit raised, so when you run it along the track, it generates some friction, and it generates, it's just raised enough that if there's like dirt on the track, once the CMX kind of loosens it up a little bit, it'll pick it up and so on. The other cool thing with this is that the chevron pattern is alternated back and forth, and you can see there it's the exact width of the CMX track cleaner. So that's real handy. You always have the line there to cut it. So what I do is I have a strip measured out that basically has the correct length for the CMX, and then all I do is after I've cut a few pieces out, I just take the scissors like this and cut down that line between the two chevron patterns, and it doesn't have to be exact, but like so, and then I end up with my own ready to roll track cleaning pad. And just to give you an idea of how much cheaper this is, I got a yard of this, which is about this wide. I don't know if you can see that, so it's considerably long. If I show you where I've cut it, you'll get a better idea. Yeah, so this here is where I've cut it, and so I think that's 2 strips right there, and so it's got all of this. So if you bought track cleaning pads recently, what I'm about to tell you might make you a little bit kind of upset, but basically that yard of material, the width of the material there, it ended up costing me less than a couple of dollars. So I think it was less than the 70 centimeters that you get on a reel, and it's almost like a lifetime supply. I basically haven't even burned through 10% of it yet, and I bought it like 2015 maybe, and it's now 2019, so like 4 years. So strip of fabric, and you get the right one, it's good to go. Now the cool thing about fabric stores is they will give you test pieces, so you can look for some fabric that you think might work, ask for a test piece, and then you can bring it home and try it on your track cleaning pad, and go from there. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to show you was we generate a lot of used track cleaning pads, right? So normally I think a lot of people throw them away, but what I've done is it's fabric, so you should be able to reuse it a couple of times at least. So you can see here, this one's obviously been used and it's still a bit stained. Some of these come out pretty well, some of them stay stained, some of them you've got to sort of agitate a little bit. But basically, what I've done here, you can see this one's clean, more or less. So you just want to make sure that when you run your hand over it, it's not coming off on your fingers or something. But more or less, you can see the water there is a little kind of dingy as well. But what I've done is I got this plastic food containers. This is like a little mini lunch box that your kids would take their school lunch to. And what you do is you put all the track cleaning pad in there. You fill it with the 91% rubbing alcohol, and you seal it up like so, and give it a bit of a shake, and then basically just let it sit there for a day or two. When that's done, I basically dispose of the rubbing alcohol that's been in there, and then I rinse everything off with the water. And then I get some boiling water from the kettle or the Keurig or whatever you want to do. I found that the Keurig's a real easy way to boil water these days. And then what you do is you take a small amount, and I mean a small amount, of washing powder. So whether it's the liquid or powder, doesn't really matter. Whatever you normally use to wash your clothes with. You put it in here with your stuff. If you've got OxyClean, that works really, really well. And then you just dump the boiling water in there. And be careful with the boiling water, but once it's all in there and sealed up, give it a good shake. And the nice thing with these food containers is that they're pretty much sealed, and they're designed to hold things like liquids sometimes. So you can see there it's getting sort of bubbly, and then I just let it sit, right? So I'll let it sit there, I'll set it aside somewhere and let it sit there for a few days, and then a couple of days later, I'll, every so often I'll shake it up, then I'll rinse it all off, and then repeat the process. It's much better than throwing these in the washing machine, I can tell you that. And then when it's all done, I usually just take them out, I lay them out on a bit of cardboard or whatever and let it dry, and then they're ready to go again. They're completely reusable. So you'll get at least, I think these are the original ones I've been using now since 2015. So you'll easily get a couple of years out of them. So it's definitely well worth it. And I also usually once a month I'll start a new set just to help clean the track a little bit better. Alright, so the other thing that we use to clean a track if you got a really stubborn spot is the Pico track cleaner. It works really well. We've used quite a lot of track cleaners over the years, and the Pico one is definitely by far the better option. If you don't believe me, I can show you my container of track rubbers here. This one's an old Hornby one. You can see it's all crusty and dirty, and it really does not bode well after a bit of use. It's kind of nasty. This is a substantial looking Gauge Master one. Unfortunately, it's useless. It comes off in kind of like clumps and almost leaves kind of scatter type residue all over your layout. So you got the Gauge Master one, it's junk, don't waste your money on it. It's just not good. So the Pico track cleaner seems to be the way to go. It doesn't leave too much residue in terms of, at least a little microscopic residue, but nothing crazy, and it does a really good job of getting the track clean.